Good morning. We're back for two more hands. Both of these hands I call a pre-flop two bet. Uh, and for both of these hands, I'm in mid position. And I will tell you, I don't really like how I played these pre-flop. So, yeah, it'll make for good practice. So, hand number one, 10 and L table. I get ace king offsuits, villain 11 open raises. So what is villain 11 open raising with? He is 28-18. I have 311 hands on him. His three bets is 3%. Raise first in is 30. Let's see his position stats. So raise first in from early positions at 29, 21 out of 73, 26, 45, 18 on the button. It really hasn't had a whole lot of hands to do that with. I think he is definitely probably on one of the looser sides. So let's give him all pockets, all broadways. We'll do like suited aces. We'll do at least suited connectors. Uh, uh, Yeah, well, maybe the one gappers. That's 24%. If we add in all of the aces, I don't think most people go crazy like that. Maybe just ace eight, maybe ace nine. It, you know, it, I just don't. I think suitedness holds a lot more uh, strength for a lot of these players. Even these lower suited connectors, they don't really happen a lot, and the one gappers. So maybe let's add some more of these kings, these higher cards. So that's about almost 25%. We get 25.2. We'll go there. We'll start there. In the absence of any other information, we'll say, okay, that's his range. I have ace of diamonds, king of clubs. It's pretty wide range. What I should be doing now is to raise to try to isolate him because I know he has a wider range. Now, if I raise, he's probably going to be calling with a tighter range. He'll probably get rid of these gappers, probably some of these offsuits, along with some of the kings. And I'm fine with that. We're building up a pot when I have a hand that should be ahead of most of his range. I didn't do that. I just called, and I think that's a big mistake. That allowed villain 12 then to attempt to squeeze. So this player, I have 583 hands on him. I only have him 3-betting pre-flop 2% of the time. If we look at 3-betting by position, you could see that he is much more likely to 3-bet. But, again, so much more likely in small blind. He's done it twice out of 49 hands. All the other ones were just once. So I think this guy is probably raising with a pretty tight range. So let's bring in a second Flopzilla. At this, we're dealing with maybe something only like that, 3%. We could probably toss in ace queen of spades. If we think he is making this as a move, then we could expand it. And I think that's probably part of the problem. If we 3-bet here and he 4-bets, we could call with ace king because we're going to be ahead of all of these pairs, and we block ace, we block kings. And I think that's fine. I don't know if I want to get all in pre-flop. I mean, we are deep. We're 100 big blinds deep at this point. But right now, yeah, he's got me beat with jacks and queens. But that's kind of what I'm leaning towards. 12 combos here versus 6 of aces and kings, 6 each of aces and kings. And when we look at ace king itself, we're dealing with 9 combos remaining. And since we're offsuit, it reduces. You basically reduce the number of ace king suited by 2, so they can't have ace king of diamonds, they can't have ace king of clubs. Same thing with the ace queen suited. They can't have the ace queen of diamonds there. So uh, this is probably pretty tight. 2.45. We're gonna leave it in there and we're gonna go with it. So villain 11 called. Uh, he 3-bet. Let's narrow his range a little bit. Let's say that he would have raised with aces and kings, and we'll do ace king. I don't see a lot of people 4-bet with queens. Obviously, it's possible uh, with 28, 18, 3, maybe. Um, I will. I think I will. I'll take the queens out. He might be a little bit too aggressive. Um, I think he'll leave in all of his suited aces. Let's take out some of these kings like that. Um, these offsuit hands. Um, I think that's probably good. So that reduces down to 16.7. Maybe he has a 5-4. Maybe he doesn't. I think we'll leave him in just to kind of be safe. So still against that range, I'm at 61%. I'm behind his range because of the jacks and queens. I call. I think I'm okay with this call. Flop was jack of hearts, 4 of hearts, 6 of spades. So jack, 4, and the 6 of spades, and misses me. All I have is 2 overs. I've got a long shot to a backdoor straight that could be that suffers from some reversed implied odds because that heart draw could get there. So getting a 10 or a queen of hearts could actually be devastating for my hand. So I don't really have a very strong hand at this point. Against this first player, you can see that his equity is much better than mine. He's more likely to hit this flop. He has those jacks in his range. He has hearts in his range. So I'm behind him. What about this player? This player I should also be behind because jacks and queens, basically jacks plus beats me. Ace king, we're looking to split unless he has ace king of hearts. Ace queen of hearts is possibility out there. So I'm not in good shape. Villain 1 checks. I think he's going to probably check his entire range. I do have him donk flopping 19%, so 4 out of 21. I think that's pretty significant. I don't know if we can see. Yeah, flop bets and raises. He donks here. 4 out of 21. It doesn't give us like position if he's more likely to do it from the blinds or out of position. So, with donking, I'd expect top pair to donk. I'd expect maybe pocket pair below top pair to donk. Just basically saying, hey, I've got a hand. I don't think you have a hand, but we've got an interesting situation because we had a raise. He raised, I called, and then we had a 3-bet, and both of us called. So this might be a situation where he wouldn't donk bet at all, and I'm going to go with that. I think donking is much more likely to happen in a single raised pot because the pot is smaller. Pot's 42 right now. In order to make that donk bet, it's going to be a bigger bet. I mean, even the donk bet, small donk bets, if he does 10 big blinds for a quarter of the pot, that's still 10 big blinds. So I think he's going to check his entire range. I of course checked mine, and then he checked his. So what is he going to check with? I was a little shocked that he checked. I would expect the overpairs to bet. I would expect the sets to bet. Well, now we'll leave the set in. Actually, no. I think a set will bet because of the heart draw that's out there. Yeah, he could be slow playing it. Let's do this. Let's set a filter and say there is 35% chance, 40% chance that he's going to check and slow play it. I think a top pair is going to be betting. doesn't have any. His ace high hands, I think, will definitely check, and that includes his flush draws. Um, so two card backdoor flush still has the ace high hands. It still has the spades in there. Um, Flush draw and overcards, I think we're good. So I think he's checking 48.9%. And you can see against the checking range, I'm doing much better now because I assume he would have bet his queens, kings, aces. I think he would have bet all of those. So we get to see a turn. Turn was the ace of hearts. I think I'm okay with that because the chance that we have a heart flush is actually going to be pretty low, 4% for the first villain. Uh, for him, we basically have zero because I assumed if he had the flush draw, he would have bet it. So if he had, ace king of hearts, he would have bet it. If I had ace queen of hearts, he would bet it. But now that the ace of hearts is on the board, he can't have those two hands. So he can only have king queen of hearts, which I don't have in his range. All right. So what happens? Villain 11 checks. I think this is a spot where I can go ahead and bet now. I mean, I would bet if I had my heart flush, but I checked, which I'm allowing it to check through and allowing that lone heart to draw. I think I could have bet. I think I might have been able to pick it up here, but this player now bets. So first guy checks. I think again he's going to probably check his entire range. He already checked. He's probably just going to slow play. Kind of gave up. He's got sets and two pairs. I just we'll see. So we're gonna leave 100% of his range here. I think if he comes out with a raise, it's gonna reveal what he has. So he bet just under half pot, which I think that could be top pair hands. I think the set's gonna bet half pot, a little less than half pot. I mean, he could have bet bigger. I think at this point he's kind of giving us a way to draw. Uh, he's got I think the nut flush draw, so king of hearts maybe, and the second nut queen of hearts maybe, but he doesn't because I don't have ace queen offsuit in there. So I think he's betting, basically 100% of his range now. We're about even money against him. Villain folds, so when he folds, I'm gonna assume that he has something like none of these top pairs, none of these hands. Probably doesn't have the nut flush or the second nut flush. I think he's looking at maybe middle pair, weak pair, no made hands. Actually, no, at the jack. Jack might call. I don't think any of these weak pairs call. No made hands call. The queens. Yeah, I think those would all call, but he didn't. He folded, so we're dealing with like 66%. And questionable whether or not jacks. I mean, jacks may find a fold. They might not. His call flop c bet is 58%, and the turn is zero. So fold the flop c bet. That's what 58% on the flop, 0% on the turn. I don't think he has a hand, so he's done. Let's get him out, and then it comes back to this person. I don't think I can fold. I've got top pair. Yeah, he may have the heart. We may be going to split it, but I don't think I can fold with just the ace at this point. I called half pot, and what that's going to do is basically set up about a pot size bet on the river. So the pot's 81.8. I have 76.2 big blinds. So I'm there for a pot size bet, and now we've got 5 of spades. So here's my decision. I can bet now and try to represent the ace. I'm basically turning my top pair, top kicker hand into a bluff, or I can do a check call and make it a bluff catcher. Now if I check to him, there is a possibility that we get to a free showdown. I mean, he has to be worried that I have the heart draw as well, unless he has like the king of hearts. Then he knows, well, that the nut heart flush draw isn't out there. So I think if I bet here, I think he's only going to be calling with the set um, with jacks. That's 13% of the time. If I bet, I think he's going to fold, ace king, ace queen. He might call with ace king, uh, but I don't think I get a lot, much value if I just bet here. I think he's going to fold out a lot of the hands that probably would have bet. So I check, and he checks. I think if he bets, he might bet ace king. He might bet ace queen. I think there's a chance to go for that. And given the two hearts that are on the board, the ace, it's he had to have king queen, and to three bet king queen suited, I just don't think that's this player. So I think I'm pretty happy that he doesn't have the heart. I'm pretty happy he doesn't have one of these fours, fives, or six trips. Maybe he has jacks, trip jacks. Aces, there's only one combo of aces left. So I think I don't think we're really getting called by worse. That could be wrong, but I think checking was probably the conservative approach. So I checked. He checked behind. He had ace queen. Was that in his range? Well, I had ace queen suited. I didn't have ace queen offsuit. So, once we put that offsuit into his range, then I think things change a little bit. So again, kind of makes sense. His check on the flop, and then when the ace gets there, you can see he's now 92% top pair. His sets starts to make me think that maybe his sets would have bet the flop, would have c bet the flop. Uh, so at top pair, he's at 100%. He has these flush draws there, and then once the five of spades hits, all he has is top pair, ace king, ace queen. Um, and we have to look at this player and think, would he call for a bet? Would he call with ace queen? Of those combos, there's going to be more ace queens than ace kings. Um, so you can see my equity of the hand is 78%, and that's because we're going to be tying a good part of it. So if we go to the river, river calls a bet, 10% of the time. Saw the river, 72%. We don't have enough hands for his three bet pots to really inspect it, but one at showdown is 50%. So when he gets there, he typically has a decent hand. I'd say probably wouldn't expect him to be bluffing. I think the one at showdown, if it's down in the 40s, low 40s, I think that's more indicative of someone who's just calling any pair, or someone who is trying to mount a bluff and gets called by better. So now that we know, we could say we adjust his range, say he could have that ace queen offsuit, and that kind of changes the frequencies a bit. So he's much more likely to have that ace king, ace queen in his hand. All right, so this is hand number one. Let me clear this out and get hand number two ready. All right, this is number two. I've got ace four of hearts. I'm having a good day here at this table. Over 300 big blinds at a 10 and an L table. So we see early position player raises to five big blinds. That's a big bet. He started with 43 and a half. I think we can probably just fold. We are early position. We're mid position, I should say. Ace four, we have the ace blocker, but he's a short stack. We don't really have a whole lot of implied odds to get paid if we do hit our hearts. And when we look at this player, out of the hands that we have, he has not raised first in from early position. He's raised 40% from MP, 33% from cutoff. He's really not raising much, and actually he's not really playing a whole lot of hands. So when we look at his range, I think we have to be fairly tight with it. Maybe something like that, 7%. And Maybe as a short stack, that's you know maybe we have to take that into account. Now, I think it's going to be telling that he did five big bets or five big blinds for this raise in early position. I don't know if those of you, if you've read Harrington's book, I'm going to say one of his early ones. He advocated, changing the bet sizes as you go around the table. So you do five uh, five blinds, I believe, uh, early position because you're trying to maximize pressure, and then you could go to four, and then three when you're in late position because with the size you only have a couple players left behind you that can fold. Maybe he's doing that, or maybe he's actually telegraphing his hand and say, "Look, I don't really want to play this hand, so with the five, if we assign a starting weight and say, okay, 50% chance that he actually has aces and kings, and maybe ace king, because he would have bet a more normal size, and then all these other ones say, hey, yeah, these are also five big blinds. But if we do that, I think I have to do all of these at 50%, and possibly also eights and nines, and maybe tens, and say just jacks and queens. For some reason, some people are like, they're scared of jacks and queens. They don't want to. They don't want to go to the flop. So what they're trying to do is make it big to get people to fold their aces. Maybe we could do that. I'm going to take off all of these weights. Um, I still think it's okay. I think in a live game, definitely assign those weights, and actually you could probably just exclude hands. So let's say in a 1-2 game, when someone comes in for 15, or $18, they've got these small pocket pairs. If they had been stung, they might also have pocket aces at that point. But we're gonna leave this here 7%. Maybe a little bit too generous, but I think we're okay with 7%. Now against that range, you'll see that I'm gonna be behind. I'm kind of at the bottom of my range, so I really should even call. If I'm going to play this hand, I think it plays better as a raise, blocks out everyone behind me. When we look at the players, these are players we have enough hands on. This player too, he doesn't look overly loose. He'll probably fold to a 3-bet unless he has a solid hand. So queens plus, ace king, ace queen, maybe some mid pocket pairs. So pocket pairs down to, let's say, sevens. Um, these, I don't know. He's looking to be the most loose player, 67 VPIP, but it's only out of four hands. So, you know, maybe, this is he played 2 out of 3, 2 out of 3, so out of the big blind. Maybe he just had a run of hands, and I've had that before. He's 27-0. He doesn't seem to be overly aggressive or overly loose. Same thing, 25-4. I think he's going to probably give up. His 4 betting range is aces. Called 3 bets in position, ace queen, ace queen basically, and we block ace queen. So I'm not too worried about many of these players calling. These players call. This is 50-22. He might call. His call 2-bet is 46%. I kind of wouldn't be surprised if he came along and then we go four-handed. This player not so much at 30-20 unless he says, hey, I already have a bet invested, let's play with it. So against those players, yeah, it's a little bit better because I'm going multi-way. I got a more chance to make money against these players, but against this player, I don't have a huge incentive to play. Even if I 3-bet and he calls, I 3-bet to 15, maybe 18. He calls and he's down to 20 big blinds. I'm basically going to have to get it all in. If I flop an ace, I mean, look at the other aces. He has me outkicked. If I don't flop an ace, he has all of these pairs in his range. So I think a fold would have been appropriate. I didn't. I just called, and no big surprise. The small blind called. I mean, we kind of expect that. So with small blind calling, Let's see what his raising range is. So I've got some information on him. So he's probably river honest. If he raises first in, he's going to be heavily suited down at least the three gappers. So I did notice that he's not really playing offsuits much at all. His four bets are queens plus, his ace suited, and ace king, so we can exclude those. Call two bets from blinds is basically all over. So you can see all of those offsuit hands that he's going to call with. So this player, we are going to go pretty wide. We'll start with there. We're going to take out these hands because I think he would 4-bet those. Yeah, ace X suiteds. He has king X suiteds. So maybe take out those. We're going to add the rest of these suited theirs. From the blinds, let's see if he how wide his offsuit hands are. Call 3-bets out of position. Called 2-bet from blind range. Ace 3, ace 7, ace 9 offsuits. No, okay, so we're going to take out these kings. But what we're going to add are these. Make sure we have the suited connectors, suited one gappers. So I think that's probably a decent range for this player. This player is very wide, plays a lot of hands. And at 45.6%, that's probably suitable. And against him, we've got all of his aces. If an ace flops, we're going to be ahead, but we do have to, we'll be ahead a good chunk of the time, other than these. But he's going to have so many of these hands in his range that we could beat him. So we see a flop. Flop is queen of hearts, 6 of hearts, and 2 of diamonds. So we flopped our nut flush draw. And what's going to happen? Villain 4 checks. Not too surprised. He donks flop 3 out of 17 times. So he is willing to donk the flop. And when he donks the flop, he usually has top pair. So I'm going to get rid of top pair because I think he would have bet those. He has all of the rest here. So 91% of the time, we might. I think setting 2 pair, he's gonna probably check raise those. So it goes to the next person. He checks, and that seems strange. So with that check, I think he would have bet. We're gonna take that off. I don't think he's gonna check his sets. I don't think he's checking 2 pair. I don't think he's checking over pair. I don't think he's checking top pair. So any of those queens. I think checking pocket pair below top pair, not super aggressive in a 3-way pot. He's probably just going to check those. His middle pair, weak pair, aces. His flush draws, maybe check. They're not super strong. His overcard, 2-card backdoor. So he's checking 67.6% of the time. And now I fired out a 12 big blind bet. Kind of makes sense. I have the ace. None of these players are suggesting they've hit a strong piece of it. And if I'm called, I can fall back on probably an ace. I could fall back on the heart draw. And if you notice, I also have backdoor straight draw, backdoor wheel, and so forth. So I have plenty of cards that I can fire a second barrel on, and might generate a fold without actually hitting my hand. Villain folds, so he's one of these, if we look at what hands he's going to fold with, so 91% of the time he's going to check, so 91% of the time he checks, he folds, so I'm going to say maybe ace high, no made hands, flush draw would have called. For this guy, I am pretty confident a gut shot would have called. Maybe two card backdoor flush would have called at least once, maybe. I think any of those would have called. So, you know, 65% of the time he's gonna fold. So that's 65.5 out of 91. 71% he's folding. So uh, he's done. He's out. What about the next player? He calls. Uh, so now what he's done is called and has left himself with 26.5 big blinds. So what is he going to call with? Well, we said we were going to get rid of the top pair in the sets. His call, I think he'll call pocket pair below top pair. I think he would call. I don't think he's going to call with ace high unless he thinks I am looking to bet to pick up the pot. So we're going to leave the ace high in there. No made hands out. I think he's calling with the flush draw. I don't. Let's see, flush draw and pair. He doesn't have any of these, so we're looking at 55%. He's going to do this with, and it's because I left in those ace high, ace king, and ace jack. Because again, he checked, and now I bet, and it looks like it's a steal. It looks like it's a steal. So yeah, I'm gonna let him play with the ace king and ace jack. Probably folds if we bet again. Just depends on if he how he views me. So based on that range, I'm at 47%, but I'm not really betting for the equity. I think I'm betting more as the implied odds that I might be getting. I'm betting now because if I checked and the heart came, I don't think he's going to call unless he has that heart flush. So, I'm looking at it as, hey, I just gained 12 more big blinds by betting now and then hitting my hand later. All right, six of clubs comes on the turn. Obviously, it didn't hit my hand. Now we have to think about what he's going to be playing with. So he checks, and it's up to me. And you can see that we're at not quite 2/3 pot bet left. That's all that's left. So we can bet and maybe try to generate a fold, or we can just check and say, okay, well, with him calling, he probably has a pair. So I think we're at 55.5% is the pocket pair. Ace high is 36.6%. He's got a low percentage of the flush draw. If I bet here, he might call with a pocket pair just to guard against the bluff. I mean, right there, he's got two pair, tens and sixes, or he might fold it. Because this is so small, if he had a bigger stack, I would definitely bet here. So let's say he had 80 big blinds behind. I would definitely bet. I'd probably bet again anywhere from 20 to 30 big blinds, maybe even higher. He called once. He's not going to call a second time. But because he's short stack, he may get desperate and say, you know what, I'm going to call just to make sure you're not bluffing. That's kind of my thought. So I did. I checked. So we go to the river. He has 100% of this range. It's going to be heavy on pocket pair below top pair, and the three of hearts comes out. So it hits me. Hits me hard, and now when we look at his range, he's got pocket pair below top pair, he's got the ace highs, and he has 4.8, 5% of the time he's got that flush. And what he does is bets here. And at this point, I think I took a stab. It kind of looks like I stabbed at the pot as a bluff. I failed because I got called, and then I just gave up because I assumed he had a queen. So I think when he bets, I think he's betting probably all of his pocket pair below top pair to try to represent that flush. I think he's also doing it with the flush. I don't think he's doing it with the ace high. If he does it, I'm going to say maybe with just ace king. So, looking at that, I know I'm at 100%. I beat his entire range because I have the nut flush. And I don't think he has trips. I don't think he has twos. I don't think he has threes. I think with set of queens, he would have been betting because of the flush draw that was out there. He may have check raised the flop with the set of queens. So I'm 100% calling here. And he shows ace with the king of hearts. So yeah, I guess that makes sense. As I said, the ace king, maybe he bets there. Um, and with the ace king, I had ace king there, and it was just a question: is he gonna bet it? I guess it makes sense when he has the king of hearts, because he knows then that I don't have ace king of hearts, I don't have king queen of hearts. Basically, the only hearts I'm gonna have are the aces. So I think he took a stab at it, thinking that he's blocking a lot of those king jacks, king 10 of heart hands that might have called in mid position. Um, I'm going to say I hit this range, I hit this hand. Kind of comes down to the river, but again, I excluded all of the full houses, so in my mind, I was already good. It just comes down to what hands is he going to bluff with. If he checks, I'm definitely going to bet here. Um, am I going to get called by worse? Maybe. Again, he could easily call with ace king and ace queen, thinking I'm just bluffing. So I'm going to say this was a win. I had the hand. Make a note that he is willing to bluff when that flush gets there. All right, so that's two hands today. Hope you enjoyed them. Look tomorrow for a couple more hands.